In identifying the dangers, we considered food poisonous bacteria in more general terms. Now let us have a closer look at some of the common pathogenic bacteria and their characteristics. But first, let us briefly consider bacteria poisons or toxins in their form of exotoxins or endotoxins. As we've already heard, pathogenic bacteria create poisons known as toxins. These toxins may have subtly different characters depending upon the actual strain of bacteria, but principally there are two very different types. The first type is called an exotoxin. These diffuse from the body of the bacteria so that they mix freely with the surroundings, making the food itself poisonous. This will then give rise to symptoms shortly after consumption. The second type is called an endotoxin. This remains inside the body of the bacteria until it dies, making the symptoms of food poisoning show later when the bacteria is eventually killed by the actions in the bowel. Salmonella bacteria. Salmonella is a rod-shaped, non-spore-forming bacteria which creates endotoxins. It is commonly found in the bowels of humans and animals, and the process of defecation is the main source of contamination. This food poisonous bacteria is transferred predominantly by bad hygiene practices or by the action of flies or vermin. In man, this bacteria can cause localized gastroenteritis, but organisms do not invade the body tissue. With salmonella poisoning, illness appears usually between 6 to 48 hours after ingestion, with symptoms of sickness and abdominal pains, and diarrhea then can usually appear within 12 to 34 hours. Headache, soreness of limbs, exhaustion and fever may also occur, with the symptoms lasting for up to 7 or 8 days. Although the patient may feel recovered, the bacteria could remain in the body and the person in effect become a carrier, capable of passing on the disease to others through food contact.
Staphylococci bacteria. Staphylococci appear round and form clusters, not unlike bunches of grapes. These bacteria produce exotoxins. Staphylococci bacteria are commonly found on the human body in places like the nose, throat, skin, and septic lesions. They are commonly passed on by direct contact from the body via the hand to the food. Actual poisoning is not inevitable from this bacteria and often depends upon the presence of sufficient toxins in the food and a person's personal susceptibility. The incubation period for this type of poisoning is approximately 2 to 6 hours after the food has been consumed. The symptoms can include sickness, abdominal pain, diarrhea, headaches, sweating and exhaustion, accompanied by a lower body temperature. The illness is generally short-lived and usually lasts 1 or 2 days, after which full recovery is rapid.
E. coli. E. coli is a rod-shaped bacterium which is commonly found in the lower intestine of warm-blooded animals. It comes in numerous strains, of which many are harmless or even beneficial in their effects. However, some serotypes can cause serious food poisoning, and the form of toxins are dependent upon the strain of bacteria. Some strains of E. coli are capable of existing for periods of time outside of the human body, known as the host, which can give rise to environmental contaminations, such as have been recently in the news in places like hospitals. The ability for the bacteria to continue to develop in hospitals is primarily due to them not being properly sterilised. E. coli are a particularly wide strain of bacteria, and their symptoms and timescales of illness can vary significantly depending on which strain has caused the problem. In the past, only young children and the elderly were thought to be at risk from E. coli food poisoning due to its characteristic massive fluid loss and dehydration. However, more recent events around the world have proven that the risk can now be wider than was perhaps first believed.